All right, Facebook, we're live again. How are we? Just getting some fuel. Had a bit of a drive last night. That's a bit of a client issue. So tonight we're going to be talking about leadership. You know, are you born with it? Do you need to develop the skills? Can these skills be developed? Can you work on those skills? Is there a difference between a good and a bad leader? And for the most part, yes, there are some pretty major differences between good and bad leaders. So I think for the most part, one of the big differences between good and bad leaders is the difference between leading from the front, knowing when to lead, knowing when to allow people to step up, and I guess self-empowering other people first, and really making sure that you are the benchmark of what your team actually does. Are you living your life, or are you living your living in your business with purpose, with vision, with a good team culture? One of my mentors used to say to me all the time, if you show me the team, I'll show you the leader. And I definitely believe that's definitely true. The reason for that is that the team will never outgrow the leader in regards to the attributes, the traits, the strengths, and most definitely the weaknesses. I've also heard that your team will do about 200% of what you do bad, and about 50% of what you do really, really good. I don't know if those numbers are quite true, and I don't know who did the stats on those things, but I definitely know that your team is going to do, or sort of allow themselves to operate themselves in their own businesses, their own sort of attributes in probably not the most resourceful ways if you're not leading from the front. The difference between good and bad leaders is, I think that a good leader is going to allow himself to, I guess, sometimes be vulnerable, allow himself to make mistakes and kind of be accountable for those things. I also do think that a great team keeps each other accountable to the goals and the targets, but more importantly the culture and the values of whatever the team set out to achieve. So I've also heard, they're just a natural born leader. I don't necessarily think that you are a natural born leader. I think that if you're the sort of person that loves to be around people and people like you, that's probably a good start for leadership. If no one likes you as a person, or you're quite rude to people, the way you treat people is not so good, you'll probably find that in regards to leadership and leading others, and more importantly getting others to follow, that type of trait is probably going to be hard pressed for people to actually follow you. So I definitely do think that you need some sort of, I'm not going to say leadership skills, but definitely people skills, and the sort of person that people want to follow. I think even more importantly in regards to leadership, your job as a leader in the front of the room, at the front of the company, driving the bus, your job is to create a vision for your people that may or may not necessarily have a vision for themselves, their life, or their future. Your job is to create that future for them. Another big thing in regards to leadership, especially if you are building teams or growing businesses, I would definitely 100%, and this is kind of where I guess for the weekend we had a business conference with probably 100 of Australia's youngest, most excited, most passionate entrepreneurs, and definitely some extremely talented sales contractors down in Sydney. Incredible group of people, probably one of the best groups of people I've actually seen in one room under the age of 20, under 25, if not even younger. So definitely a mark of respect to the people that actually brought those people. But something that I kind of got out of the trip myself personally was in regards to the business and what we're actually trying to achieve down here in Adelaide. I found myself actually being quite I guess displaced my own vision for what I wanted for the company, and so focused on what I thought was so focused on other people's goals, I actually really forgot about my own. And in regards to leadership, that's probably not the best thing to do, because what you'll actually find is that your energy, your inspiration, your motivation will trickle down through the business, through the team, and obviously the productivity and the results will show from that. I'm not going to say that obviously there was no motivation or no inspiration, but you guys emotionally will somehow feel that you might have displaced yourself from the company or detracted from other things from that purpose of what the company's actually set out to achieve. So I kind of went through a couple of my goals with the guys and kind of realized how close I am to a massive personal goal that I've had for probably around about 10 years. And really, if we kind of kick our ass and get it into gear and kind of sort everything out and really work together as a group of businesses together, that can be pretty much well be done by March. So personally myself, I actually got quite excited about that, and literally instantaneously the energy of that filtered down through the team. So I guess in summary, I'll keep it really quick. In summary, as a leader, sometimes it's important to lead, obviously lead from the front. I definitely think that trying to push people is the wrong way to do it. I think as a leader, your main focus is to drive forward and allow other people to follow you and be the best person that people want to follow. For me, it's kind of the thing that I'll answer that in a second, Luke. I think it's kind of like, I use the analogy of a string. So if you put a string on on a table and push that string up, normally what happens, that string will crumple up and nothing really happens. But if you actually put your finger at the end of the string and pull it along, you'll find that it actually flows much nicer. And I think that's one of the biggest focuses for leaders, is to drive from the front and allow people to follow them and be the sort of person that people want to follow. So who in the world do you think is a great leader and why? Whoa, there's so many. There's so many in regards to one that comes to my mind, Nelson Mandela, for what he stood for, and how he changed basically the history of the African continent. We just finished a series on TV about genius, about Albert Einstein, an incredible leader, and definitely stood up for what he believed in regards to the Second World War and Germany and all those sort of things. But he definitely was a leader in his industry. I'm sure going back even further, you would have had people like the Aristotles or those types of people. I think leadership comes down to making decisions, even if people are not necessarily happy with those decisions. But I think sometimes true leadership is actually leading from the front and making decisions that personally are correct to your core, and actually staying true to your core. Other great leaders, what else would there be? Heaps of I think there's so many, and Will Smith online, there's on YouTube, there's stuff on Will Smith. Elon Musk is probably one of the greatest entrepreneurs / and/or leaders. Although when he was saying about getting to Mars, basically his sales pitch is that to get to Mars, you will have to be single. You'll have to be, I guess, a pioneer. And it's basically the first person that gets to Mars is kind of a suicide mission. I'm not too sure what type of sales pitch that is, but I found that quite funny. It's like, I don't know if he's very good at sales at all, but he's basically saying it's a suicide mission and you'll probably die. Other leaders, Richard Branson, and it's not just because they're entrepreneurs. I think the biggest thing is they've set themselves apart because of their, the thing that I like about Richard Branson is his customer service, his ability to, understand industries, even if he hasn't got a background in that. I guarantee before he started the record industry, he didn't know necessarily how the industry actually worked, but he finds the best people. Steve Jobs, the quarter before Steve Jobs actually took over, I think they lost about $750 million, and the 10 or 15 years after he got involved with them again, they were the world's biggest corporation. So that to me is a testament, and they literally were 2 years ahead of every single other telephone company or digital technology company and now, you know, Samsung is definitely up there, and they seem to be quite behind. So that comes down to leadership, and I guess sticking to what you know is true, intrinsically true to yourself. So if you want to shoot any more questions, I'd love to take this offline, or shoot me an email, julian@spartanleap.com.au. Have an amazing week. I will see you guys next week, and thanks for listening. Take it easy.